ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
The LouieTeeNetwork is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be? For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Monday Night Football Overtime. Final doubleheader of the 2025 regular season. And this was a interesting game, to say the least. Seattle Seahawks come out victorious 27-19 over the Houston Texans in a very sloppy football game for both sides. The Houston Texans offensively are a mess. You fired Bobby Slowick for this, and I'm not saying that Bobby Slowick was a great offensive coordinator. Quite the contrary. But this shit is not it. I can tell you that much. This offense is terrible. Their offensive line stinks. We'll get to them. To the victors go the spoils. Let's start with Seattle as they improved to 5-2 on the season in a three-way first-place tie with the Rams and San Francisco 49ers. Good win for them. It wasn't their best football tonight. You turn it over 4 times, you're usually going to lose the game. But luckily enough for them, they were playing an inept offense, so they were allowed to get away with the sloppiness. It started with them getting cute on offense. They were really having success in that first half throwing the football with Sam Darnold, and somehow they managed to put the ball in the hands of Cooper Kupp and let him throw it, and he throws an interception, and it kind of just – their offense stagnated from that point on. It wasn't until the second half that they were able to reignite that offense and put some points on the scoreboard, but they kind of got stuck in neutral after that. And I thought that they were up 14-0. They were dominating the game. I saw no reason for that. And that started an avalanche of turnovers. They turned it over 3 times in the second half. Darnold with a fumble in the end zone, which can't happen. That what gave the Texans one of 2 touchdowns that they had on the night. I don't know if the Texans scored a touchdown tonight without that fumble. I really don't. The Texans practically lived in the Seattle Seahawks portion of the field in the second half, basically the entire fourth quarter, but couldn't get in the end zone. Credit the Seahawks defense for that. But ultimately, this was sloppy. And this is who they've been at home. This is why they haven't been successful at home. Their 2 losses have come at home. They've struggled at home. They've been incredible on the road, but they find a way to get it done tonight. Jackson Smith and Jigba. What more can I say? God damn it, he's good. I mean, jeez. I mean, he's the reason that I didn't cash in tonight. And maybe that was my fault for betting against him. But I just thought this Texans secondary, which I think is the best in football, and you heard what they said in the production meeting with the Texans secondary coach and their defensive coordinator. They thought they could slow down Jackson Smith and Jigba. They just felt like they could be physical with him. They could crowd his space. They felt like he was always open. And they found out the hard way that he's always open because he's that damn good. And I'm just flabbergasted at how this man just continues to get open week after week after week after week. He did it again tonight. They had no answers for him, to be honest with you. And he went over 120 yards yet again. I think there's 3 straight games of him going over 100 yards. I'm not sure if it's not 3 straight games of him going over 120 yards and like 4 out of his last 5 going over 100 yards. Like, he's been a machine. I think when it's all said and done, he's going to lead the NFL in receiving yards this year because every week you look up and he's filling it up. You know, Puka Nacua is a guy that if he stays healthy, and I think he's only going to miss the 1 game. They now have a bye week. Puka's supposed to be back after that. It'll be those 2 between Puka Nacua and Jackson Smith and Jigba. The biggest difference is Puka is going to end up with 147 catches, and his average yards is going to be like 13 per catch, where Jackson Smith and Jigba's is going to end up being like 18.5 yards per catch because it's just, he's so dynamic with his He doesn't need 17 targets and 13 catches to get his 137 yards. He can do it in 5 catches, which is probably what he did tonight, 5 or 6 catches. He's turned into one of the elite wide receivers in the NFL. You saw it again tonight. And this is a Texans defense that is no slouch. They were flying around defensively tonight. They didn't lose this game because of their defense. That's for damn sure. And so hats off to Jackson Smith and Jigba for doing it against the defense that I think it might be the toughest for him to have done it against. He showed that I don't know if there's any defense in the league that can hold him down. The only thing that can hold him down is if Sam Darnold can't get him the football. And Sam's done a really good job of getting him the football this year. That duo right now is one of the most dangerous in the National Football League. Defensively, Seattle was really good tonight. They're so fast on defense. That secondary is long with Rick Woolen, who I wouldn't be shocked to see him get moved. I thought he played really well tonight. His name has come up in trade rumors. I just hope they don't trade him to the Eagles. That's my only hope. If he gets traded, that's the team that I think could benefit with getting him the most. And he'd be a perfect fit for what they do defensively. And I pray to God that they don't think that that's a good idea to trade him within the conference. But he looks like he can still be of some sort of value to them. He was outstanding tonight. At one point, he had gotten benched and you weren't sure, but they've got some injuries. Witherspoon's not healthy. So I think Rick Woolen is still a starter, and he played really well tonight. And when you look at him, his height, weight, speed specimen at 6'4", 205 or so, running a 4.3, 4.2, whatever, the 40 is for him, which is insane. And then you got Nick Amanawari, the rookie safety out of South Carolina, who's flying around. I forget the guy's name that had the sack, but he's flying around. Okada, I think it is. Okada, that's his name. He's flying around. Number 42, who had the tackle down inside the red zone, he's flying around. It's just one guy after another. The defensive line is just so active and athletic. You saw Leonard Williams running with Berrios, I believe it was, out of the backfield on a swing pass out to the flats. That's a 315, 320-pound defensive tackle doing that. Between him and the defensive tackle, the second-year defensive tackle out of Texas that they drafted in the first round last year, and Uchenna Nwosu, they're just so active up front. They're just an active group. And I absolutely love Jones, the linebacker that they got from the Rams. I wanted him so badly. I wanted him in Washington. And I was once I found out the Rams were willing to part ways with him, I was like, do whatever you got to do to go get him. He's a freak. And, just watching him play tonight makes me even more envious of the fact that he's in the right place. He's going to be utilized properly in Seattle. And 3 interceptions this year. Had another one tonight. He's stupid, man. The athleticism is at all 3 levels for this Seahawks defense, and you saw it. They're not afraid to blitz. They feel confident. Like I remember when Josh Jobe was Jolly Rancher Jobe in Philadelphia. Now he's covering his ass off out there for the Seahawks. They're not afraid to come with the blitz and play coverage on the back end. And they got a safety that can cover in Nick Amanawari. So you could cover with Woolen outside. They're going to get Witherspoon back eventually. Julian Love is out of the game tonight. He's coming back eventually. Job is covering. They're really good, man. And they're well coached. And I think that's what I keep harping on, like watching the 4 defenses tonight. They're all different in the way that they present themselves. Of the 4 defenses tonight, I think the Bucs have the least talented, but they're well coached. They know what they're doing. They know where they're supposed to be. They understand the scheme and their assignment, and they do their jobs, right? Detroit, obviously has a ton of injuries. They got a big-time pass rusher. That changes a lot. But they also have Jack Campbell, an athletically gifted linebacker as well. So they got speed on all three levels. They were flying around, and I truly love what Kelvin Shepherd has done for them. And then you go to the game tonight. I think, and this is why I was interested in him as a head coaching candidate in Washington. Mike Macdonald is one of the best defensive minds in football. You've seen how he's turned Seattle into a menace defensively. Now, again, it's not every week, and if you've got your shit together, you can take advantage of them. I watched Baker Mayfield carve these guys up just a few weeks ago. So it's not like they're one of these impenetrable defenses where, man, it's just hard to come by. But they beat up somebody last week. I can't remember who it was. They talked about it during the telecast where they hit the quarterback 17 times. They beat the shit out of C.J. Stroud tonight up as well. Don't know how many times they hit him, but it had to be in the double figures. And God, they dominated the line of scrimmage. The Texans should be ashamed of themselves trying to run the football the way that they did tonight. They just erased the line of scrimmage, did the Seahawks up front, and reestablished it 2-3 yards into the backfield. Jaron Reed and the defensive tackle from Texas, I don't know why I can't think of his name, and Leonard Williams, Marcus Lawrence, Uchenna Nwosu. I mean, these guys just destroyed the Texans up front. Just made them look like child's play. And the Texans offensive coordinator should be fired on the spot. He's awful. I could have done a better job of calling plays tonight in those short yardage situations. I told you that, and we'll get to this when we get to the Texans, but I told you that game management wise, Raheem Morris is the worst coach in football. Not too far behind him is DeMeco Ryans. He just is totally clueless in these situations, and I'll explain when we get to the Texans side of things. But ultimately, the domination up front at the line of scrimmage is the reason why Seattle won this game. The combination of being able to get to C.J. Stroud, making him uncomfortable. They could have easily had 3 or 4 picks off of him. They dropped about 3 interceptions. C.J. Stroud, once his feet get going and he's not comfortable, you can get him to do some stupid shit with the football. He threw a pick to Ernest Jones and easily could have thrown 3 more. Guys had the ball in their hands and just didn't come up with them. They really harassed him. They shut down the run game. They devoured this offensive line in short yardage situations, got 2 fourth down stops on maybe even 3 fourth down stops in short yardage. I don't know what the hell the Texans were doing in short yardage. I mean, they just were incredibly inefficient. And it was it was insufferable to watch. But you got to credit Seattle's defense for doing that. Like, they were outstanding tonight. And Byron Murphy, thank you, Anthony Jett. Byron Murphy, the second-year defensive tackle, is another guy that's just ferocious up front. This is a Seahawks defense that they're so in tune with their head coach. They just get it. And they're not afraid to blitz. I saw the most excellent safety blitz from Okada on a 3rd down, where he just walks up to the line of scrimmage, times it up pretty good. They overload that side. He comes scot-free, and C.J. Stroud never had a shot. And that's just fun to watch when a coordinator gets it. Having a team where your defensive coordinator is clueless, it's just fun watching coordinators who are creative, who get it, put their guys in positions to succeed. And the Seattle Seahawks defense, when they find a team like the Texans, they are going to absolutely destroy them. And that's what they did up front tonight. Credit to them. They were the reasons that they won the game tonight, because offensively, you turn it over 4 times, you're supposed to lose the game. You're supposed to lose the game. And that offense was the reason that this game was even close, because ultimately they should have won this game by 3 scores. And for this to come down to a 1-possession game, which it never really truly was because of the ineptitude of the Texans offense, but for it to even get to that point where you were going to have to punt that football away with about 20 seconds left, if not for a stupid, mindless penalty, which the Texans, again, they're so undisciplined. They're not well coached. from a game management standpoint. They make a lot of silly mistakes. The one thing I can say about the Texans is we transition to them is that they're really good defensively and they're well coached defensively, but they're undisciplined. It's an undisciplined football team. And there's a penalty early in the game on Azeez Al-Shire where Sam Darnold should have run out of bounds short of the first down on the third down. It's like 3rd and 8, and he gets 2 yards, and you're like, don't slam him. I'm saying, don't slam him, don't slam him. Of course, he scoops him up and he slams him out of bounds, and I'm like, you dummy. They throw the flag. You lose this game, right? You lose this game by 8 points. That's a 4-point penalty. They were going to have to kick a field goal on 4th and 6, and it would have been 10-0. And again, in a game that you went for it for 2, when you wouldn't have had to go for it for 2, and all those times you were down there, it's a totally different game if you don't go for 2. Instead, you kick the extra point, you kick a field goal, and now you're only down 3 points. This is a totally different game. That touchdown at the end would have been to tie the game. Possibly take the lead and go for 2 if you were feeling froggy. But because of just undisciplined play, you take a 3-point possession, defense has done their job, held them, and you turn it into a touchdown. Then at the end of the game, you're trying to get the ball back. You weren't going to do anything with it anyway, but shit, give me a shot. And Tim Settle, who burst into the backfield, had a chance at a tackle for loss, doesn't make it, gets up, and then decides he wants to jump his big 320-pound ass on top of the pile. And they throw a 15-yard penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct, unnecessary roughness, whatever the hell it was. God bless and good night. This offensive line is a joke. It was last year. It is this year. You blew it up, and it didn't seem like you put it back together all that well. CJ Stroud, I thought he missed some opportunities tonight. He wasn't protected. It's hard to really... It's so hard to be hypercritical of CJ Stroud when you look at what's in front of him. His offensive line stinks. And he was under duress for most of the night. But when he had open receivers, he wasn't his sharpest either. He didn't give guys opportunities to make plays. And so, and his refusal to run was the reason why I didn't like him in that 2023 NFL draft, is because he didn't want to run. And the only reason that I started to come around on him was that final game in his collegiate career against Georgia, in that playoff game where he actually decided to show people, I can run, you know. And we've seen it at times, the playoff game against Kansas City last year, the playoff game against the Chargers last year. I think he ran in those games. I know he ran against Kansas City in the divisional round last year. He just refuses to run. And there were times tonight where he looked like a damn statue. He looked like Eli and Peyton Manning back there. I mean, it was a joke. And I'm like, bro, are you incapable of running? There were opportunities. Seattle was coming after him. They were aggressive, and there were lanes. And you heard Dan Orlovsky say, hey, he's going to have to use his legs. Like, there are opportunities for him to escape. There are lanes that are being created, and they're playing a lot of man coverage behind these blitzes. Guys' backs are turned, take off and run. And he refused. He didn't do it until the end of the game. And even when he starts to do it, it still looks clunky and sloppy and funky, but it's better than not doing it and going back there and taking stupid sacks and intentional groundings and throwing the football away and taking unnecessary shots. So sometimes he's baffling. Watching him play the position is baffling sometimes. But he fought tonight. He took a beating and he fought. And that offensive line, like I said, is a joke. But the defense, let's talk about some good before we get back to the bad, right? The defense was outstanding for the Texans tonight. They deserve better. This is the defense that came into the game giving up 12 points a game. 12! 12 points a game. And they're 2-4 now. They're 2-4, and they're giving up, after this game, they're probably giving up something like 16 points a game. I don't know, 17 points a game. And they're 2-4. This defense deserves better. This offense is trifling. Four forced turnovers tonight by this Texans defense. Very disappointed in their inability to bottle up the one guy that can hurt you defensively in Jackson Smith and Jigba. But outside of that, they for the most part bottled up the run. They gave up some plays, and I talked about Arroyo in the skill game. Like, that's a guy that he was at 1.5 catches in this game, and I was like, man, I want to take Arroyo because he's really good. I've watched him grow this year, and I'm like, I could see him having an impact. And the first possession of the game, he had 2 catches. I'm like, shit. But they took the ball from him, late in the game, forced a fumble there. Stingley jumped in front of a pass intended for Jackson Smith, and Jigba picked it off. They were just disruptive. This Texans defense, they forced a fumble in the end zone. How about the hat trick for Will Anderson, right? How about the hat trick? Forced sack, forced fumble, recovery in the end zone, touchdown. When your offense can't do anything, you got to do it yourself. It was at that moment I thought they could actually steal this game. Down 14-12. Knew they weren't going to get the 2-point conversion because their offensive coordinator is god-awful. To me, one of the worst things you can do is cut the field in half, down inside the 5-yard line, shorten the field by rolling out to one side of the field or the other. You can't keep running bootlegs and play action because they don't respect your run game and they're blowing it up, so it's not going to work. So those boots that were having success early in the game aren't going to work because you can't run the football. So I knew they weren't going to get the 2-point conversion. But it gave them a fighting chance. They go, and this is the part of the defense that pissed me off. They get the score within 2, and then they immediately give up a touchdown. Immediately give up a touchdown. And then I think Stroud threw an interception, and that set up another opportunity for them to score, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So really disappointed in the Texans offense tonight. And I don't know their offensive coordinator's name. I don't need to learn his name because he's not going to be around for very much longer because he stinks. And the constant insistence on running the football in short yardage situations as if your line is built to do that is just remedial on his part. I thought the biggest infraction of the night that drove me absolutely insane, if I was a Texans fan, I'd be losing it, came at the end of the game. And you get down there the first time, because they had 2 stints down there. The first one, they got turned back on four downs. And the second one, they went for it on 4th down, and Stroud found Woody Marks for the touchdown, or the game would have been over. I think that's the one. That might have been on 3rd down. I'm not sure. It might have been 4th down. I think it was 4th down. He found Woody Marks for the touchdown. Anyway, the first set of downs, you still got about 5 minutes left in the game. So all 3 of your timeouts, you needed to score the touchdown right there to have a legitimate shot at coming back and trying to tie this ball game up, which you weren't going to do because you weren't going to get the 2-point conversion anyway. So regardless of what happened, you were going to lose this game, whether it was 27-25 or what it ultimately ended up being 27-19. You're going to lose the game anyway because you weren't going to get the 2-point conversion. But you get down there after a catch, I believe, to a throw and a catch to Jalen Noel, I believe. You're down at like the 3-yard line. You run it with Woody Marks. Surprisingly, he gets all the way down to like the half-yard line. Dan Orlovsky is screaming quarterback sneak, and I thought they could have done that. They went for it they're not deep. They went for it in their own territory at their own 40-yard line on a 4th down and 1 after a catch by Dalton Schultz, who had a strong game tonight. And he was just short of the sticks, and they decided to go for it. I'm like, okay, you have to quarterback sneak this. You can't run. You can't turn around and hand the ball off. You're not good enough to do that. And, of course, they try to do it, and it gets blown up. I think he might have been short on a second down. And in third down, they tried to run it. And then they tried to turn around and run it again on fourth down. And they got shut down. I was like, why didn't you just quarterback sneak it? So they get down to the goal line. It's 2nd and goal from the half-yard line. And Orlovsky's like, you got to sneak this. They roll CJ Stroud out. It doesn't work. It's incomplete. It's a good play by Okada, who jumps up and deflects it. He had Hutchinson in the back of the end zone. That was on third down. The second down, they tried. No one was open. It just wasn't a good play call. Just run the damn ball with your quarterback. They tried the bootleg play action fake on third down. He's got Hutchinson, but CJ throws a flat football, doesn't put enough air on it. It gets deflected by Okada. Great play. Now it's fourth down. And I'm like, you better not try and run this shit, you stupid bastard. And of course, he tries to run it. Then they get just stonewalled, right? Never had a shot. And I was thinking if you're going to run it, you needed to come with something surprising, like a fullback dive type, something quick hitting. That long developing shit, it ain't going to work. That they should have just like Drew Brees over the top stretch, that kind of thing. Anything like that. Maybe they don't feel comfortable putting CJ in a position where they do a tush push. They maybe don't believe in the tush push. They're rebelling against it. I don't know. But there are other ways you can go about trying to get that touchdown, but you are literally right there, right? So they get turned away. The defense almost gets another safety or a stop in the end zone on Sam Darnold. I don't know what Seahawks were thinking about with the way that pass rush for the Texans was getting after them down there by the goal line. They already sacked him for a touchdown and a forced fumble once. Why would you even try that? They tried the shot to Jackson Smith and Jigba. It didn't work. They tried to run. It didn't work because the Texans run defense, for the most part tonight, was really good. So they sack him. Denico Autry, I thought, was spectacular tonight. He's just one of those veterans that knows how to rush the quarterback. And they got a punt from their own end zone. And credit to Stroud. He gets them back down there again. A couple of big completions. One to Jalen Noel, another one to Schultz. And they get right back down there again. So this time, there's 3 minutes left and the clock's running. And I'm saying to myself, okay, you still got one timeout left. So now you got to start paying attention to the clock. And this is where DeMeco Ryans is the absolute worst, along with the Falcons head coach. I don't know why I just blanked on his name. But this is where he is absolutely the worst. So you get down there, and there's about 3 minutes roughly left in the game. There's plenty of time. If you score this touchdown, they're going to have to run 2 plays prior to the 2-minute warning, and you still got the 2-minute warning and your timeout. If you get a stop, you're going to get the ball back with plenty of time. So what you can't do now, they're down inside the 5-yard line, mind you. What you can't do is run the football. That's what you can't do. Unless you plan on burning your final timeout, which is the stupidest thing you could do. So what you don't want to do is you're not going to run this in for a touchdown. You're not going to surprise them. You haven't been able to run the football all night long. So running the football should be out of the playbook here. Spread them out. And then the stupidest thing is like that whole Rams idea of we're going to have a tight formation with all these receivers and we're going to try to run the football. You ain't running shit with all these receivers on the field in this tight bunch formation. They're going to blow through those receivers, get in the goddamn backfield and blow this shit up. If you're going to run it, spread them out and try to get them. But this wasn't the time for any of that. Everything needed to be to the end zone. If it's incomplete, it stops the clock. But at least you're not wasting time. They try to run the football. And I just shake my head like they're so clueless. And there's no urgency. They run it. They failed to get in, and the clock's just running. Now it's 2 minutes and 23 seconds left, and I'm like, you could have scored a touchdown with over, like the goal is over 240, right? 248, something like that. So if you can't kick it out of the back of the end zone, which we'll get to in a second, and they return the kickoff, and let's say it takes 6 seconds, it's 2:42. You're hoping to get to a point, and that's why you want to 2:52, something like that. So when the end of that play happens, that 40-second clock runs, and they have to snap it prior to the 2-minute warning. That's what you want. They let that thing burn all the way down to 2:23 before they snap the ball. They run the play. It's incomplete. It stops the clock at about 2:11, 2:12. And I'm like, you stupid idiots. You guys are so brainless. You don't get this shit at all. Then CJ runs around for like 6-7 seconds, finds Woody Marks. Guess what time's left? 2:04. Now you're screwed. Now you got to have your kicker kick the ball out of the back of the end zone so that they can't bring it out and waste those 4 seconds, because now you got one timeout, and now you're not going to have the 2-minute warning if you don't kick this out of bounds. You are better off like kicking. If you can't get it, if your kicker doesn't have the leg to kick it out of bounds, which I'm just like, he kicked. I don't know. Maybe the new rules state that they can't get a super running start, because I would have just backed up and got as far back or start as I need to then put as much leg as I can into it. Maybe there's a rule, in there that states that kickers can't back up any more than 5 yards, because they don't back up further than 5 yards when they kick the ball off now. And maybe that's to ensure that they don't get these mass, because they used to back up like 10, 15 yards, put their hand in the air, get that running start, and then kick the shit out of the football. And maybe that's to ensure that you don't get as many touchbacks anymore. But after they scored that touchdown, kicked the extra point, there was 2:04 left. D'Amico Ryans has to tell Kamimi Fairbairn, hey, this has to go out of the back of the end zone. If you can't get it out of the back of the end zone, then you kick it in the landing zone. Or don't kick it in the landing zone. Kick it out of bounds. Whatever. Those yards, because they're already getting it at the 35 if you kick it out of the end zone. So that extra 5 yards for an illegal kick out of bounds or not landing in the landing zone is irrelevant. The 4 seconds are way more precious than the damn 5 extra yards for kicking the shit out of bounds or not kicking it in the landing zone. So either way, you go to Kamimi Fairbairn and you say, can you get this shit out of bounds? And if he's like, I think so, I don't want to hear no thinking. Kick that bitch in the landing, out of the landing zone, or you kick it out of bounds. Either way, I don't give a shit. Pick one so we can keep those 4 seconds. Of course, he doesn't tell him any of that. He kicks the bitch to the goal line. Well, they're bringing it out. He wastes off the 4 seconds, 2-minute warning. It was clock management. It was clock manglement 101. Raheem Morris style. Like, the Texans are the best at this though. Raheem Morris, I've seen him do some dirty work with the clock, but nobody does it better than the Texans. Nobody's nastier at managing late game situations than the Houston Texans. And they did it again. Gave themselves no chance down the stretch with their late game execution. Offensive coordinator stinks. The game management stinks. And they're going to stink this year. Their schedule coming up is brutal. They're going to win 6 games max this season. And it's a shame because their defense is a 11-12 win defense. Their offense is bottlenecking this football team, and they're a 5-6 win team offense. Damn shame. But I digress. They forced 4 turnovers tonight, and these weren't like down by their own end zone touch. These were great field position turnovers they forced, and their offense did absolutely jack diddly poo squat with them. Credit Seattle for some of that, but a lot of it was just the ineptitude of this Texans offense. Poor play calling, bad execution, you name it, they did it. Hats off to the Seattle Seahawks, though. That's a good football team over there, man. 5-2. Tied for first place in what is the most competitive and complete division in football, the NFC West. You've got 3 5-2 teams and an Arizona Cardinals team that has been highly competitive with some of the league's best They took Green Bay to the wire yesterday. They had the Indianapolis Colts, who have the best record in the league at 6-1, on the ropes in Indy 2 weeks ago. And they easily could have beaten the Seattle Seahawks team at home about a month ago. So the worst team in that division, the Arizona Cardinals, is no pushover. So, and all of this that I just talked about against Green Bay and Indy, that was done with a backup quarterback. So that division top to bottom is just tough and brutal. And you got 3 5-2 teams in the NFC West. But as I always say, every year we do this with the division in the NFC. Whatever division is playing the AFC South, that division is going to have 3 teams with double-digit wins. Okay? 2022, the NFC East played the AFC South. You had 3 double-digit win teams. I don't think the Giants made it to double digits, but they did make the playoffs. They ended up like 8, 9, 7, and 1 or some shit like that. But they made the playoffs. And then you had 2, double-digit win teams in the Eagles and the Cowboys, and the Commanders should have been there too. They screwed the pooch at 8-1. Last year, or 2023, that was the what division was it? It must have been the South, which they weren't going to take full advantage of it like they should have. Last year, that was the NFC North, and that's why you had the Vikings at 14, the Lions at 15, and the Packers at 12, right? Because they took advantage of it. And this year, it's the West, and they've taken advantage of it, and they're off to a 5-2 start for 3 different teams. So shout out to that division for taking advantage of the layup, which is the AFC South. In any event, the Texans used to be the toughest team in that division. Now they officially stink, and it's gonna be a rough season for them. And I wonder, it's probably not fair to D'Amico, but I wonder if there's gonna start being, conversations about his job security. He's made the playoffs each of his first 2 years. Shouldn't be. He's won a playoff game each of his first 2 years. He's just so bad at this clock management, game management stuff and then the offense has just been putrid really each of the last 2 years, especially after they fired your boy. I forgot his name. I said it at the beginning of the show. They started off really well with all the guys that were healthy last year. Then all the injuries happened, and it's like the offense fell off of a cliff. They fired him, and it's just the offense has just gone from bad to worse. So anyway, I digress. Let's get to the skill game, brought to you by Sleeper. We'll come back on the other side, and we'll get to your comments, and then we will get out of here.
The skill game, brought to you by Sleeper.
All right, so Sleeper is a fantasy sports and real money gaming app that focuses on bringing people together through sports and gaming. And I can tell you right now that I'm having so much fun with this app. It's been phenomenal for me. I haven't won, which I'm the king of the one pick screwing me over. And that's my fault, all right? Nobody else's. I make the one pick that always gets me, but I am the king of this. I have, I'm a theme-based guy. So when I make my picks, I base them off of themes. Like in my mind, what's the theme of this game? Like in the game earlier tonight, the run was going to be important in the red zone for the Lions, and Jared Goff was going to turn the ball over, and he wasn't going to throw more than 2 touchdown pass or 1 touchdown pass. That was my theme, and it worked out. What stopped me was the fact that I had both of the running backs getting a touchdown, and only one did. Jahmyr Gibbs hogged both of the rushing touchdowns, and that got me earlier. I also had, I think, Baker Mayfield didn't get over the passing yards, and so there were other things that didn't happen, but that was like the theme of the game, and it worked out. That was the right theme. Just the execution just wasn't, what I needed it to be. So this is so much fun, though, because it forces me to think critically. Sometimes I overthink it, which happens very often. because that's how I'm wired. But ultimately, this has added an element of enjoyment and enhanced my football watching experience, unlike I thought going into this process. And so I vouch for this sleeper app big time. And a lot of people have made money based off of my selections, except for me, right? But nonetheless, you can make money off of this app too. Simply go in the description of this video and every video that I do. There you will find the link. Use that link to go where you can download this app. And if you already have the app, you're already ahead of the game. If you don't, download it. Make sure that Sleeper is available in your area. It's available in over 25 states in the US. Once you've made sure that you're good there, verify on the app. Once you've done all that, in the month of October, promo $20 free for downloading the app. You don't have to do anything. Just download the app. $20 straight to your account. And as we've shown throughout this whole process, you don't need a lot of money to win a lot of money on the Sleeper app. And then if you want to enhance your opportunity to win even more money, all you got to do is use my promo code LTN to get you 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. That's right, a dollar for dollar match. You put in 50, they're going to give you an additional 50. You put in 75, they're going to give you an additional 75. You put in 100, they're going to match your $100 by giving you an additional $100 to utilize on the app. What's better than that? Who doesn't like free, right? So, with that said, let's see what I did tonight. As you can see at the top, I lost again. So I told you Zach Charbonnet is a touchdown machine for the Seattle Seahawks because when they get down there, that's the guy they like to give it to. So anytime there's a Seattle Seahawks primetime game, probably going to take Zach Charbonnet for a touchdown because that's who's going to get it when they get down there. CJ Stroud barely got over the multiplier boost of 227.5 yards. He hit it on 229 at the very end. Boy, it was a struggle for old CJ Stroud tonight, but he got it. Darnold, I told you he was going to throw a pick. I just felt it in my bones. Tonight was a heavy pick night for the quarterbacks. We had 2 games. All 4 quarterbacks threw at least 1 interception. Did not see that coming, but I did think that there was going to be at least 1 interception thrown in the first game. Both quarterbacks threw an interception, and I did think that Darnold was going to throw an interception. I did not think that Stroud would, but he did. But Darnold did as well. We actually had 2 interceptions thrown by the Seahawks, one by Darnold, another by Cooper Kupp. But I didn't care about that. I got my Darnold interception. Kamimi Fairbairn knocked home his 2 field goals in the first half of this game. So he got that out of the way because I knew he wasn't going to kick anymore. You have to get these 2 field goals out of the way, or else the Texans, who were chasing an uphill battle, they weren't going to be in a position where they could settle for field goals. Field goals weren't going to do anything for them on the scoreboard. So I was like, you have to get these 2 field goals. That block field goal sequence followed by the big completion down to Jalen Noel was huge because it got Kamimi Fairbairn his 2nd field goal attempt. And I was like, that's it. You don't have to kick another field goal the rest of the game. Get it out of the way. I loved that. But what ultimately got me, Nico Collins got injured, so they voided his anytime touchdown, so I was good. So all I needed was Jackson Smith and Jigba to not have 123 yards, just have less than 88 yards receiving in this game. And unfortunately, he had 8 catches, 123 yards, and a touchdown. And I just thought the Texans would do a better job on him. They thought they were going to do a better job on him. So that was pretty disappointing, to say the least. If that happens, I've got $315 in my pocket. Instead, they let me down. But all I had to do was take Jackson Smith and Jigba on the more yards, and I would have won tonight. So I made a decision to side with the Texans defense over the guy that had been extremely hot, and I got burned. It happens. So it is what it is. But I am going to bounce back. I keep saying this, and I feel this in my spirit. I'm getting close, dangerously close. But almost doesn't count. Almost doesn't count. Got to get one of these, man. Got to get one of these. So that's what happened to me tonight. Every time Seattle plays, I always fall one short. The last time they played on primetime, I was a Zach Charbonnet touchdown, or excuse me, a Kenneth Walker touchdown away from like $900 or $1,100, whatever it was. And this time I was Jackson Smith and Jigba yards away from winning. So I'll get them eventually. But shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring this stream. And you too can win money on Sleeper. All you got to do is download the app, use my promo code LTN, and get in the game. Get off the bench, get in the game, and get this money. Anyway, big shout out to Sleeper. That, my friends, is the skill game brought to you by Sleeper.
The skill game brought to you by Sleeper.
All right. So let's get to the comment section real quick, and then we will get out of here. Sovereign Legacy, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Sovereign Legacy writes, hey, Lou. What's up, Sovereign Legacy? Can we trade a 2027 fifth-round pick for the Texas defense and take this shit to the offs? Just saying, LOL. I wish it were that simple. First of all, this Texans defense is worth way more than a 2027 fifth. You know how many first-round picks, how many, second-round picks and studs Jalen Petrie is a second-round pick. Lassiter, the corner, is a second-round pick. Stingley is a first-round pick. Will Anderson is a first-round pick. This defense is littered. Caleb Bullocks is a third-round pick. Danielle Hunter, I believe, is a third-round pick. This defense is littered with all kinds of stud picks that they just didn't miss on. Danielle Hunter, obviously a free agent acquisition, but they're loaded, man. Like, there's no way you can get them for a fifth rounder. You'd have to give up a first-round pick, multiple first rounds to get that defense. But they've done like, if you're gonna suck, like the Texans have sucked, and they got all those picks from Cleveland and the Deshaun Watson trade. Like, if you're gonna suck and you're gonna hit the reset button, that's what you're supposed to do. Maximize those picks. Don't miss on those picks. Hit big, hit big, and they did that specifically on the defensive side. And as much as you may not love, or speak for myself, love DeMeco Ryans as a game manager, he's that good defensively. He's that good defensively. And so you run the risk of this defense taking a massive step back if he's not there, which is the heart and soul of that football team right now. If he could ever find the right offensive coordinator, and then obviously they got to find a way to build up that offensive line. But if he could ever find the right offensive coordinator, they could be lethal in Houston. It would be nice to have a defense like that. For me, can we just start with a competent play caller? That's what I think I noticed. I always say, hey, what did you learn? Right? When you watch other teams, I feel like you should be taking lessons. You should be learning. You should be seeing what our team is missing. Like, that's one of the things that I love doing when I watch other teams play. I just love football in general. You guys know that. But I'm also, looking and seeing, well, what makes this team better than my team, or what aspects of this team are better than my team, or what aspects of our team are better than the rest of the league. And you get to see those things because you're watching it firsthand. And tonight, it was eye-opening because I've been defending Joe Witt Jr. And, tonight was eye-opening in the sense that a competent play caller can change a lot. You don't have to have the most talent. It helps when you have talent. It's hard to circumvent not having talent. But if you have a competent play caller with a clear message and a clear philosophical belief, like, if you're gonna blitz. Like a lot of people used to give Wink Martindale shit in New York with the Giants, but he had a philosophical belief. I'm a blitz. I'm gonna live by the blitz. I'm gonna die by the blitz. And that's Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles is gonna blitz. Come hell or high water, he's gonna come after your quarterback. He'll pick his spots here and there, but he's coming. At some point, he's going to blitz because that is what he does. And those guys know it, and they know how to play it, and it's fun to watch. And when you watch Kelvin Shepard with the Lions, they clearly had an identity and a plan. We're going to be physical. We're going to fly around. And yeah, we're going to pressure. We're not going to just sit back in these soft zone coverages. We're going to play man coverage. We're going to play tight man coverage. And we're going to get after them. And we're going to just let the chips fall where they may. We don't have an identity. It's soft zone. It's man, but we man off. You know, it's so inconsistent. The blitzes aren't good. It's so vanilla. We don't have an identity defensively. We don't. And watching these teams tonight, they have an identity defensively. They have really good, talented play callers who mix it up, who make it tough. We don't have that. We don't have it. That sucks. Anthony Jett, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Anthony Jett writes, Texans OC almost makes me appreciate Kevin Patullo. He's so bad. The Texans offensive coordinator. He is so bad. I don't know his name. I don't even want to know his name. He is awful. Jesus. He is bad. My goodness. I could have done a better job than him tonight. And I rarely say things like that. He was so bad tonight. And now that I've seen the struggles of the Texas offense, I understand why they're so bad. Yes, the offensive line isn't great. Yes, they've had guys in and out of the lineup at the skill positions. But their offensive play caller is the worst. He's the worst. It does make you appreciate. This is why I think it's important to watch other teams, because sometimes as fans of teams, we complain about our stuff. And you think you got it bad, and then you look at somebody else's situation and you realize our shit's bad, but it ain't that bad. It could be worse. And that's why I think it's important to watch other teams. When you're isolated in your own little bubble, in your own little ecosystem, and you don't watch anything but your team, you really don't know, because you don't have a large enough sample size to compare it to other teams, because you don't watch other teams. That's why I don't have conversations with people who don't watch other teams. If I weren't on the NFC East Super Friends, I wouldn't talk football with Lord Brunson at all, because he really don't watch anybody but the Eagles. That's all he knows. If I wasn't on the NFC East Super Friends, I probably wouldn't talk to Law about football. I could talk to him about the Cowboys. I could talk to LB about the Eagles. But I couldn't have football conversations with, because they don't really watch other teams. They what's the word I'm looking for? It was right on the tip of my tongue. But all they do is watch their team. And that's fine. That most fans are like that. Most fans are like that. Most fans don't watch other teams. They just care about their team. And so I think you do yourself a disservice when you don't watch other teams. So does give you a greater appreciation for some of the things that your team might have. Not that Kevin Patullo is a good offensive coordinator, but just know it could be worse. Right? Duncan Wright, thank you for being a member for 19 months. Who writes, come on, Lou, it's too late for you. I'll bug you tomorrow. Sure. Good job, Duncan. Sovereign Legacy, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? Lou, bro, you ain't never hit on any of these sleeper picks. That's not true. I've hit on one before. Two, actually. I hit on two. Stop joshing us. You ain't getting nothing, LOL. I'm so close. You watch, you've seen. I'm so close. Telling you. It's and I'm gonna when I get hot, I'm gonna get hot. Feeling hot. And I'm telling you, you're gonna look up and your boy's gonna be like over 1,500 in the plus category. Like, I'm gonna just be hot. He says, I'm jealous. I'm in Washington State, can't do any sports betting. That does suck. That does suck. Eventually, all of the states will have it at some point, but you just got to wait until your state is up. But don't worry, I'll do enough betting for the both of us. How about that? Sovereign Legacy, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes? Look, Lou, I don't care when they were drafted. Our picks are worth more than anything they got. LOL. Just kidding, man. Just dreaming. Dream. Hey, who am I to tell you how to dream? All right. It's just fun watching defenses who get it with athletic talent that fly around, that are well coached. It's just fun watching them, because when you watch enough of our games, you forget what that looks like. You forget what that looks like. So when you see it, you're like, damn, that shit is almost foreign to your eyes. It's foreign and it's refreshing all at the same time, because what is this? You're allowed to blitz your safety? We saw a double cat blitz. Did you see that cat blitz on CJ Stroud tonight? They blitzed both corners. When's the last time you've seen that in Washington? You would think it's illegal to blitz a corner in Washington. They didn't blitz one, they blitzed both of them jokers, and he got a sack. They picked up one and he didn't see the other one. I'm like, is anybody else seeing this? You can blitz corners? That's allowed? The Seahawks had the cleanest safety blitz. The Bucs had the cleanest corner, the slot corner blitz tonight. Sack. Seahawks cleanest safety blitz. Sack. The Seahawks double cat blitz. One got home. And I'm just watching like, you can blitz guys in the secondary? No way. Really? I felt like Lloyd in Dumb and Dumber when he saw the newspaper when it said we landed on the moon. And it's like 35 years later, he's talking about we landed on the moon. I feel like you can blitz secondary members? Yeah, you can actually do that. You got to be shitting me. I had no idea. I had no idea you could blitz safeties, slot corners, boundary corners. What? Wow. When they start letting you do that? Interesting. Interesting stuff. I hate it here. Once again, I hate it here, bro. I hate that we have to go through what we have to go through because of incompetency. And that's what we got. We got incompetency. Lack of high-end talent, and then it's made worse. It's exacerbated by the fact that we don't have a good enough play caller to circumvent the lack of high-end defensive talent. So the stuff that you do have, you're not maximizing it. And that's frustrating. Sovereign Legacy, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Sovereign Legacy writes, I just want a defense like we had in the past. Why can't we have that again? I mean, the defense that we had in the past, you got to be talking about way back. You talking about 05, 04, 05 type defenses. And that's the last time we had a credible defense in Washington. We ain't had a real defense, one that induces fear since Gibbs, 2.0. You talk going all the way back to Greg Williams. When the last time we had a real defense? Anytime we start talking about defensive coordinators, that's the joke, right? Greg Mineski and Joe Barry and Jack Del Rio. Like that spans the last, 15 years, basically. Toss in Joe Witt Jr. now. Like, that's been our existence here. We've had shitty defensive coordinators for a very long time. We could have had Wade Phillips here and old Jay thought it was funny to bring him in here and show all the times that he got off on old Wade Phillips defenses instead of hiring the man and making him his defensive coordinator. So, yeah, it's been a while since we've had a credible defense. So, yeah, sucks. But I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Monday Night Football Overtime. Doubleheader, the final Monday Night Football doubleheader of the season. These have actually been solid. None of the second games have actually been all that good. You had the Raiders, Chargers in week 2, I believe, as the second leg of the doubleheader. That wasn't a good game. This was entertaining from a defensive standpoint, but offensively, it was pretty nasty on both sides. But the defense was top-notch. I enjoyed it. So the defense that we saw tonight overall from both games was pretty stellar. It's rare that you have 2 games and nobody scores 30 points in either of them. In today's NFL, the way the games are set up, it's set up for points to be scored. And to have 4 teams go into games tonight and none of them crack 30. I mean, the highest point total of the night was Seattle's 27. I mean, it tells you all you need to know. And that's Detroit and Tampa Bay are 2 of the highest scoring teams in the league. Seattle's no slouch, and nobody made it to 30. So, and one of the teams didn't even make it out of 10, make it to double figures in Tampa Bay. So we saw some pretty good defensive performances tonight. But the big story is 3 NFC teams leave week 7's doubleheader at 5-2. Seattle joins the ranks of the best record in the conference at 5-2, with the likes of San Francisco, Tampa Bay, Philadelphia, the Rams. I think those are all the 5-2 teams in the NFC. Now they're a part of that group. So Seattle keeps finding ways to win. They finally win at home. Not that I think they had already won a game at home this season. They beat up on, one of those garbage NFC South teams at home, I believe, already. But let me think. How many road games have they played this year? They played Arizona on the road. They played Pittsburgh on the road. Who did they play last week? That's the real question. Who did they play last week? I don't remember. Only one way to find out. Don't have to guess. You have everything you need right here in front of you. They played the Jaguars last week. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, I remember that game. Okay. That was on the road. The Saints is who they beat up at home. That's the only home win prior to tonight was the Saints. All the rest of their wins came on the road. So this was a good one to get. They got the bye week, then the Commanders on the road, then they're home for the Cardinals. At the Rams is going to be a big one, November 16th. That could go a long way in deciding who wins this division. Again, don't count out the San Francisco 49ers, who have already beaten both the Rams and the Seahawks and the Cardinals. They've already won 3 games within the division. So everyone's chasing the 49ers from a divisional standpoint, but this Seahawks team is really solid. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Monday Night Football Overtime. The Texans dropped to 2-4. Their offense is anemic. Their game management is a joke, but their defense ain't no joke. Damn shame that this is a top flight, top 5 NFL defensive unit, and they're accompanied by a bottom 5 NFL offense. They're going to lose a lot more games this season because they're incapable of scoring points. They fall 27-19 tonight, despite forcing 4 turnovers. 4 of them. And it's not like they gave it away 3 times. They had 1 giveaway tonight. 1. They won the turnover margin by 3, and they still lost this game. And it really isn't as close as the score indicates. It really isn't as close as the score indicates. If their defense didn't force a touchdown, like literally force a fumble in the end zone and recover it, this is probably a 3-score win for the Seahawks. Because they probably don't score that last touchdown either. Crazy. But I digress. It's been a long night. I appreciate everyone that's kicked it with me for both of these games. Really appreciate y'all for holding the kid down. You guys enjoy the rest of your night. I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care. God bless. Good night. Oh, got one more. Sovereign Legacy. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Sovereign Legacy says, I've been here since then, just saying. But yeah, that's the last time we had a legit defense. We've gone through all the coordinators. Hazlitt. The only thing I respected about Hazlitt, he lived and died by the blitz. And we died a lot by the blitz when he was here. Died a lot. I remember that game against the Texans where we were kicking their ass, but we kept blitzing, and Arian Foster went off on us because we wouldn't stop blitzing. Let the Texans come all the way back. We were beating the brakes off of them, like 28 to like 3 or some shit like that. And we blew it. Like, we probably weren't up that much. It's probably like 21-0 or 21-3 or something like that. 24 to like 31-13 or some shit like that. We were up big and they came back and beat us because Hazlitt wouldn't stop blitzing. He would not stop blitzing. But what I wouldn't give for an aggressive defensive coordinator, but it is what it is. You guys enjoy the rest of your night. Take care. Base.